to Real Life English. My name is Tanita and I want to teach you real life everyday English and some tips to help you with learning English or how you can improve your English. So today I wanted to share with you 3 bad speech habits that you might be doing and how you can fix them. Just as a reminder, I do include a free worksheet that you can use with these videos to practice what we learn in our video today. So please click the link in the description and download the free worksheet to help you really advance your English and improve, because, well, that's why you're here, right? Let's not waste any time and get straight into the first bad speech habit for today. The first bad habit that we're going to look at is biased language, or using biased loaded language, which, can maybe give the wrong impression or not clearly or accurately describe what you're trying to say. What is biased or loaded language? Loaded language is the language that we use to create a very strong emotional response in someone. Now, sometimes this needs to be used because maybe we're trying to tell a story and we want the listener to feel whatever's happening in that story. But sometimes we can also use this incorrectly. Loaded language can be used for many different reasons. Some of the other reasons we might use loaded language could also be to push an agenda, to sway someone's opinion or change someone's mind, or even to win an election, for example. Biased language is a little bit different to loaded language in that biased language normally has a very heavy meaning in terms of what it describes. It is often used to talk about different kinds of marginalized groups, and it can actually be very offensive. So let's take a look at a few examples to see if you might be using biased or loaded language incorrectly. I'm going to look at 2 examples of some of the terms that might be biased and explain to you why they are biased and how they are better alternatives that you should use instead. The first one that we're going to look at is illegal aliens. This term is used to talk about immigrants. All right, these are the people that come to or go to another country where they were not born. But illegal aliens kind of suggests that, number one, if they're there in a particular country that you're talking about, illegal sort of suggests that they're not supposed to be there, that what they're doing is incorrect or against the law. Aliens also means that something is foreign and doesn't belong. So using the term illegal aliens to talk about immigrants can be really offensive. This type of language is what we call biased language or even loaded language because it creates a strong emotional sort of response in the person that you might be speaking to when you use these words. Illegal and alien also have really negative meanings, and they all suggest that this person doesn't belong and what they're doing is wrong, which isn't the case. Hello, illegal aliens! It's so great to have you here today for our language class. A better option would be to use the word immigrant or even foreigner. Foreigner is a little on the sort of line, if I could say that, just because foreigner also suggests that they're not supposed to be there, whereas immigrant is a legally accepted term to describe a person who is living in a country where they were not born. Another really common one, and this is one that we find a lot in the ESL industry, and I really wanted to cover it because, well, it has to do with language learners and language teachers, especially in the English industry, but that doesn't mean it doesn't affect teachers or language teachers in other industries as well. The term is native language speaker. Only native speakers can teach a language. Duh! It's just ridiculous. The word native here specifically talks about the language somebody grows up with and learns as a first language. You're probably wondering, but how can native be offensive? Well, it kind of depends on how it's being used. If native is being used to exclude a certain group of people, like advanced language speakers, this is when native can become problematic. When we use the word native and we exclude people who can speak a language fluently and in an advanced way, even though it might not be their first language, native becomes offensive. If you see a job advert, for example, saying that it wants native English speakers or native Spanish speakers, and only those people may apply, it excludes anybody who can speak the language really well, fluently, and at a very advanced level, just because they weren't born in maybe the right country or because it might not be their first language. Just because a language is not your first language doesn't mean that you are not able to speak it fluently. And that's why the word native language speaker, this term or the word native, if used incorrectly, can actually be quite bad. So what is a better term that we could use? Well, it's quite easy. Fluent speaker or fluent language speaker. For example, fluent English speaker, advanced Spanish speaker. So we can also use the word advanced to replace the word native. Now, there are many other words that are considered biased or loaded. So you might need to do a little bit of research here. But what I will do is include a few links in the description below to some of the more common loaded or biased words that we might see. And this will give you an opportunity to review them and look at some better alternatives that you could use instead. So, the question here is, are you perhaps using the wrong kind of language to express your opinions? If you think that you are, this is a great opportunity for you to assess your language, assess some of the words and vocabulary and terms that you know, and see how you can change them for something more appropriate that doesn't make people feel excluded or bad about themselves. Language is a powerful tool and it needs to be used responsibly. The next bad speech habit that we're going to look at is maybe not so serious as biased or loaded language, but it's another problem that could be really damaging for your learning journey and as well for people to understand you. And that is talking too quickly. Now, I know that in some cultures, like America, it's generally well known that Americans speak really quickly. And yes, they do. But there's a difference between speaking really quickly and being understood and speaking quickly just because you want to speak quickly. All right, so we have to be careful with that. A really interesting fact about speaking and timing your speaking is that most people are only comfortable hearing speech at about 110 to 160 words per minute. Now, 160 words might be a little bit on the high side. So this is good to know because when you practice, when I give you a way to fix this, knowing how many words you say per minute can actually help you slow down your speech and make sure that you're understood very well. It's very common to see this mistake and this bad habit where people are trying to speak too quickly. So why is this a bad thing? Well, first of all, you could have a great message, but if you speak too quickly, nobody's going to understand you. It makes it really difficult for somebody to understand you if they can't hear all the wonderful words that you're using to express your opinion. It can also make you look anxious or maybe even nervous or unsure of yourself if you speak too quickly. Sometimes speaking quickly is a way that people cope with nerves. So If you're speaking quickly but not actually nervous, you can still be seen as being unsure of your abilities or what you're even saying. So that's another reason why you shouldn't speak too quickly. Speaking quickly can also ruin your articulation and pronunciation. What we're talking about here is how clearly you sound to someone else and how someone else is able to hear what you're saying. Some words in English are so similar that if your pronunciation is not clear enough, the listener might be confused or not sure which word you're actually trying to use, and that could change the whole meaning of what you're trying to say. You're also going to lose people's attention. Have you ever listened to someone speaking really quickly and you didn't understand what they're saying? Of course, you're not going to pay attention because you don't even know what's happening in the first place. So speaking quickly can have some really bad effects for your listeners. You lose your message, people don't understand you, you might actually end up saying something that's maybe not so good, and you lose the attention of the people you're speaking to. So those are all things that we don't want when speaking in another language. Right, so how do we fix it? There's a few things you can do. Number one, you can use pauses when you speak. Okay. Maybe you shouldn't quite do it that way, but you can use pauses to help you slow down. To explain this trick of using pauses, to give you an example, where we might have a comma in a sentence is probably a place where you should make a pause when you speak. So let's look at an example. Instead of saying, let's eat dinner, I'm hungry, we could rather say, let's eat dinner, I'm hungry. Did you see the pause between let's eat dinner, I'm hungry? That pause is normally where a comma would go. So when you're speaking, you can use that pause to slow yourself down a little bit. You can also use these pauses at the end of your sentences, not just in the middle. Let's take a look at another example. Let's eat dinner, I'm hungry, the food looks and smells amazing. Did anybody understand that? I'm not so sure. But let's see what it sounds like when we add those pauses. Let's eat dinner, I'm hungry. The food smells and looks amazing. Okay, let's eat dinner, pause. I'm hungry, pause. The food looks and smells amazing. Adding these pauses between your thoughts and ideas as well as the end of your sentences can help slow you down a little bit. Another thing you can do is try to connect with your audience or the person that you're speaking to by using eye contact. Now I know for some people this is really difficult. You don't want it to be a staring contest. You don't want it to be a staring contest, but when you make eye contact, it makes you a little bit more aware of how you are connecting with that person, which could automatically slow you down. Having eye contact also allows you to see the expressions and body language of the person you're speaking to. Are they listening? Are they interested? Are they looking somewhere else? This all gives you an idea of whether they actually understand you or are even engaged in your conversation. So that eye contact is not only good for automatically slowing you down through that connection, but you can also look at their behavior and sort of judge whether you might be speaking too quickly or whether they might not understand you. And that awareness would also help you to slow down your speech. Another thing you can do to actually practice this technique is to speak and time yourself. Now, an interesting little fact is that most people hear or listen comfortably at 100 to 160 words per minute. The average person speaks at 110 to 160 words per minute. So the next time you practice your speaking abilities, time yourself. So set your timer to a minute. Practice your speaking. Speak about any topic or a topic that you're interested in, or maybe a presentation that you need to give, and review it. After that 1 minute, listen to it and make note of how many words you use in that minute. If it's more than 160, you're going way too quickly. You need to slow it down. All right? You also don't want to be too slow. So make sure that you're somewhere between 110 and 150 words per minute. That would be a really good sweet spot for people being able to understand you and for helping you not speak too quickly. As with any habit, remember, we have to rinse and repeat, right? You're probably going to have to do this a few times, if not many times, to get this habit, this bad habit, out of your life, okay? So don't forget to keep practicing, rinse and repeat. The last bad speech habit that we're going to look at today is not being assertive enough. What does it mean to be assertive? Now, being assertive doesn't mean that you have to be in control or be blunt or aggressive. The art of being assertive is all about expressing your idea in a very clear way without the other person feeling that you are being rude or aggressive. That's what it means to be assertive. Now, a lot of the time, this is because of a lack of confidence, so I don't want to focus on assertiveness through confidence. I want to focus on some of the words you might be using that make you sound like you're not confident or make you sound unsure of yourself, even though you are. So when we learn a language, sometimes we learn the wrong words and we use them in the wrong way. There are certain words you might be using that make you seem like you don't have confidence, even though you do. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't work on your confidence. This is definitely something I recommend. I mean, I have self-confidence issues. The first time I had to do these videos was very scary for me. But the more I do it, the better I get at it. And the more confident I feel. And it was the same for my English teaching. Every time I started with a new school or had a new student, I felt really nervous. But over time, it gets better. Just keep putting yourself out there. Just keep doing it and your self-confidence will grow. Know your worth and your value and actively work on your confidence. Going back to words that you might be using incorrectly that make you seem less assertive or confident, let's have a look at a few of them. Using modal verbs is one of the most common ways that we don't sound confident enough, even though we have the confidence we need to express our ideas. So when you need to be polite or diplomatic, these modal verbs are great because you're using them in the right way. Let's take a look at how you might be using them in the wrong way. Imagine you're at work and one of your team members or subordinates needs to get a report to you. And you said something like this: "Could you get the report to me by next Friday?" This modal verb used in this way makes you sound a little unsure. Do you need the report? Is it that important to have it by Friday? Do they need to follow and listen to your request? Or is it optional? Could gives the receiver the option to decline. And that's probably not what you want. A better option could be, "Please, will you get the report to me by Friday?" When you use the modal will in this way, it means that you're not giving the receiver the option to decline. It's either a yes or a no. Now, naturally, if it is a no, that requires further discussion. That person needs to tell you why this might be a problem or why there is a delay in getting this report to you. This happens all the time. Sometimes we just don't have enough time or there is a problem, and that's okay. But when you say could, you're giving them the option to fully decline without necessarily talking about the problems or the reason why this might be a problem. So be careful how you use modal verbs because some of them, yes, we use to be polite, but if we need to be more assertive, we should rather change them to modals like will. Another thing you can do is use I statements. If you trust your opinion on something and are confident in what you're saying, don't say he said or she said or we. Don't group yourself with other people. Be assertive. Be clear that you trust your opinion. You trust yourself. So say I. Let's look at an example. I'm certain I'm the right person for the promotion. Okay. By using the term I am certain, it means that I am confident and that I trust I have the skills and abilities to be good for the job. All right, I'm not unsure of myself. I know I can do it. If you had said something like, well, he thinks I'm a good person for the promotion, you're not really showing that you're confident. You're saying that this is something he thinks, but maybe you don't think it, which means you're unsure. Now, if that is the case, then sure, use he or they or she. But if you want to be assertive and you're confident in your skills, use I statements instead. Now, the next one is something I see often in my students where they don't even realize it. I know that they are 100% sure about something, but the word that they use says otherwise. And we have to be careful. These words could be things like think, believe, guess. So let's have a look at words like think or guess. Now imagine you're telling someone a story or you're explaining what you see happening right in front of you or around you. And you use the word think or guess, it means that you're unsure of your opinion. So imagine in front of you is a cheetah or a lion or a tiger, whatever animal, and you want to tell someone that you can see this animal. If you said something like, I think there's a lion in front of me, that means you're unsure. You're not sure. The person who's listening to you is not sure if you're actually seeing a lion. Is it a cheetah? Maybe it's a bird, a shadow, a cutout drawing, who knows? But if you know 100% that there is a lion in front of you, why are you using the word think or guess? You know the answer is right. And this is something that some of my students do quite often. They know that the answer is right, or they know that their opinion is true and valid for them, but they will use words like I think or I guess, and that makes them sound uncertain and unsure about their own beliefs or the things that they know are true. So be careful, you might be using this kind of language in your speech. If you know that you are certain about something, instead of using think or guess, just leave them out completely. Instead of saying, I think there is a lion in front of me, you could just say, there is a lion in front of me. You're sure, you know it's there, you can see it. Be clear about that. So you could use words like sure, no, certain. You can use these words instead to show that you are confident and to show your assertiveness. This is something that is more commonly done by women. I'm not saying that men don't do it, but women tend to use this kind of language more than men. And I think it does have something to do with gender roles, as well as the history of gender roles. So for a lot of women, it's really hard to be assertive, especially in the workplace, because it's traditionally a place where we didn't have a lot of power. So this is something just to be aware of. Ladies, if you might be making this mistake, have a look and see how you can do better, how you can be more sure of yourself. You need to trust yourself. If you know that you're good at something, say it. Say it as it is. Now, I must say I am so guilty of this. I sometimes use these kinds of words even though I'm sure about what I'm saying. It's very natural to want to do that because you want to be polite and you want to be nice and you want everybody to like you. And I totally understand that because I do it too. But if we want to make sure that our speaking and our speech is accurate, we need to find ways to use the right language for the right moments. All right, So those are the bad speech habits for today. So we had a look at using biased or loaded language when maybe that's not what you mean. We looked at speaking too quickly, how that can be a problem and how you can fix it. And we also looked at using the wrong language that makes you sound less confident and not being assertive enough. I hope you enjoyed these tips today. As always, there is a worksheet. The link is in the description. Please download it and practice what we've learned today. Remember, if you liked the video, please share it, give it a thumbs up, hit the bell notification. You know all the details. I'm sure you hear this all the time. But if you like it, please do spread it for me. I really do appreciate that. If you have any questions or ideas or any other kinds of videos that you'd like to see, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. I hope you have a wonderful day. It was great to have you here and see you next time. Bye! I just realized I have a slip the whole time in my pocket. I hope it's not too noticeable. My camera's getting too warm and I can't open the windows because they're mowing the grass.